To welcome HRC President Chad. After a year and a half on the job, he has led this organization to incredible new heights. Over the course of his tenure, the LGBT community scored its biggest election victories in history. And this year, the United States Supreme Court just issued historic pro-equality rulings, thanks in part to Chad's visionary leadership. As a kid who grew up in Arkansas, he really gets what it's like to grow up and live in a Crimson State. He has spent a career building coalitions to get things done, and he's a natural leader at this decisive moment in our movement. As support for LGBT equality becomes a mainstream American value, Chad will ensure that HRC is at the forefront of fights to come. Let's take a look at how Chad's leadership is building equality every day.
We, the people, declare today that the most evident of truths, that all of us are created equal, is the star that guides us still. Just as it guided our forebears through Seneca Falls and Selma and Stonewall, just as it guided all those men and women, sung and unsung, who left footprints along this great mall, to hear a preacher say that we cannot walk alone.
President Obama spoke those words at his second inauguration. But there is so much work left to do. At this decisive moment in history, we are so fortunate to have a leader like Chad Griffin at the helm of the Human Rights Campaign.
This is a watershed moment, a centuries-long struggle for equality in this country.
Same-sex couples will once again be able to marry in California.
Today, at long last, this nation has wiped away the shame of Proposition 8 and the Discriminatory Defense of Marriage Act once and for all.
The president's on the line for Air Force One.
While tonight we celebrate, tomorrow this fight continues with greater urgency than ever before. Now it's up to us to make this historic victory reach each and every corner of this country.
Congratulations on your victory at the Supreme Court. So what is next?
This was a historic week for equality in this country, and American values really did win. And our job is to work harder than we've ever fought before to bring equality, full equality, to every single state in this country. You know, we're going to look back in history, and we're going to see this time as the true turning point. We can do it. I know we can do it. And that's what the Human Rights Campaign is all about.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you all. And thank you, Tracy, for that kind introduction. It is so great to be back in New York. You know, it takes a lot of work to do what this organization does. And the incredible leadership of our steering committee, our board of governors, our dinner co-chairs, and last but certainly not least, your members on our National Board of Directors, Tracy Ahern, Paul Botskin, Chris Carolyn, and Henry Robin. They are tireless leaders and dedicated advocates. Join me in showing your appreciation. But I want to begin my remarks tonight on a serious note. About an event not here in New York or even in the United States, but halfway around the world in Sochi, Russia. Last night, Americans tuned in by the millions, as did billions more around the globe, to see a deeply, deeply misleading picture. The presentation of a nation led by a man who wants nothing more than to see his own LGBT people swept under the rug and hidden away behind some of the world's most repressive and dangerous laws. But despite all of the celebrations and the Olympic pageantry, the fact is that once this party is over and all the medals are awarded, what will be left behind is the horrific and often hidden violence that is perpetuated daily against LGBT Russians. And let's be clear, it's not just in Russia that this is happening. From Uganda to India to Cameroon, LGBT people are facing new discrimination every day. In Nigeria, a recent law enacted bans participation in any LGBT organization like HRC. A law that would make every single one of you in this room a criminal. If you're gay, you could be arrested and sent to jail for up to 14 years. And if you're a straight ally, arrested and jailed for up to 10 years. Even as we win historic victories here at home, we cannot be silent as our LGBT brothers and sisters suffer around this world. And that's why I am so proud of HRC's new global engagement program, and I am even prouder that two leading New York philanthropists, Paul Singer and Dan Loeb, as well as many in this room, have stood up to support this work in its earliest stages. And tonight, I want to issue a challenge to New York and to everyone in this room. This city believes it can change the world because it has changed the world. Nations like Russia and Nigeria and Uganda, they depend on the business and the investment and the jobs that come from this city. It's time to tell these countries and those leaders that unless they treat their LGBT citizens with fundamental dignity, that business, those jobs, that investment, it's going somewhere else. It's the right thing to do. Tonight, we're in this room for a very simple reason. Equality isn't just a New York value. It isn't just an American value. It's a human value. Every victory we celebrate, it should remind us of the places that our victories have yet to reach. And we have achieved so many of those victories together. Think about all we've accomplished just since we gathered in this room a year ago. The destruction of DOMA and its more than 2 decades of discrimination. The bipartisan passage of INDA in the Senate and new bipartisan support in the House. Thank you, Ken Mehlman. And last but certainly not least, marriage equality in Maine, Maryland, Washington, Rhode Island, Delaware, Minnesota, California, New Jersey, Hawaii, Illinois, New Mexico, and wait a minute, 1,360 couples in the Mormon state of Utah. Victories made possible because of you. And tonight, I want to thank each and every one of you in this room for 2 reasons. First, for showing the tireless leadership and the dedication that it took to win this movement's greatest achievements yet. And second, for coming here tonight to declare that this fight's not over until each and every American in all 50 states can share in those same victories. Because as historic as those two Supreme Court rulings were, they didn't reach everyone. Today, millions of LGBT people still live on the other side of a dark, dark wall of discrimination. A wall that today divides this country into two Americas. In one America, mostly on the coasts, even while there is work left to be done in classrooms and church pews and around dinner tables, and especially right here in New York, we have to pass gender. But full equality, it's nearly a reality in that America. But in the other America, across the Midwest and throughout the South, even the most fundamental protections of the law are non-existent. No anti-bullying laws, no reliable access to affordable HIV care, no right for same-sex couples to adopt a child, and certainly no marriage equality. All across the country, that legal patchwork, that crazy quilt, it's creating new threats and new dangers for LGBT people and their families every day. But tonight, I'm here to tell you that this organization has the power to change that. Just a few weeks ago, a team of HRC staff traveled to Starkville, Mississippi, a town of about 20,000 people in a state with not even one law protecting LGBT citizens. We were in Starkville because the city was considering the first pro-LGBT legislation in the history of that state. The city resolution, which recognizes the inherent worth of all city residents, including, as one local TV station called it, the so-called LGBT community, it passed unanimously. It may seem like only a first step, but for an LGBT person living in Starkville, it made all the difference in the world. 4 gay city employees who aren't out at work, 2 police officers, and 2 firefighters. They passed along a simple message that historic day in Mississippi. They said, thank you. Thank you, because for the very first time they had hope. Hope that they might begin to fill those victories that the lucky few on the coasts are already beginning to take for granted. My friends, that's progress. And as long as Starkville is fighting for equality, here in New York, we have got to fight alongside them. And that's why last year in front of the Supreme Court, on those grand marble steps, we set a bold new goal. A goal to bring marriage equality to all 50 of our states within the next 5 years. And I know you believe, like I do, that the rising tide of equality, full legal equality, can't leave anyone behind. After all, there's a reason every single one of you is here in this room tonight. You're here for those who can't be. You're here for that young lesbian or transgender teenager who tonight will go to bed on the wrong side of that dark wall of discrimination. Not on Park Avenue, but on Main Street in Starkville. Or perhaps you're here for that young person that you used to be. You're here because you know that in just a few hours, we'll all go back to our homes, our hotel rooms. We'll shut the door, we'll turn out the lights, and we'll fall asleep. But that young person will walk into their room, turn out the lights, get into bed, but instead of falling asleep, they'll lie awake all night fearing the potential doom of that next day. There's no question that at this historic moment of opportunity, we've got victories behind us, and we certainly have hope ahead of us. But the question tonight is, what are we going to do? What are we going to do for that young person right now? We've got to win. We have got to fight and win for them. We've got to dig deeper, push harder, move faster, and be bolder. My friends, we've got to fight like hell, and not just in New York, but in Mississippi, and not just in California, but in Ohio, Nevada, Idaho, Alabama, and Arkansas, until these two Americas finally become one again. And at long last, we tear down that dark wall of discrimination everywhere, for everyone, forever. Thank you very much.